Okay, welcome. This is kind of a hybrid recording. I have an actual class going on now. We're doing advertising management, contemporary advertising, 16th edition. I'm using the slides in the 16th edition. And we're starting from slide one, talking about advertising and integrated marketing communication, using the whole process in today's very, very high tech, different kind of world. When I started teaching this course almost 20 years ago, it was very, very primitive compared to what it is today. Back 20 years ago, we didn't have the social media that we have today. The internet was newer. It didn't have all the functionality that it has today, and just advertising was in a different direction. Today, we are more modernized, and we are definitely headed to even more modernization than we ever had before in using technologies. All right, so tonight we're going to go through the learning objectives, define integrated marketing communications. Here on in, we'll be calling that IMC. Clarify what advertising is and how it differs from other kinds of marketing communications. Describe the human communication process, which is important to understand, feedback and decoding and things of that nature, and compare it with how advertising communicates, and offer reasons why companies want relationships with their customers, and show how IMC, integrated marketing communication, helps them to develop such relationships. Define marketing and identify the four elements of marketing strategy. Illustrate integrating marketing communications role in marketing strategy, and identify important categories under promotion, the communication element of strategy. So brands are all around you. All of us are accosted, if you will, by brands. Gentlemen out there, do you not fixate on certain brands? Are certain brands in sneakers not appealing to you? Are certain brands in watches, phones, cell phones? Gentlemen, question to the classroom out there. How many of you have iPhones? Speak up.
Me. Me. iPhones or smartphones?
iPhones. So I heard two me's. Does anybody have an Android? Me.
There's got to be one Android guy.
Me, I'm the Android guy.
Oh,
I have the Google phone.
That's Android. Google phone is Android. You have the Pixel?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess you love taking pictures because the Pixel is known to be an excellent picture platform.
That crazy night vision.
Night vision, okay. You got night
Yeah, you
vision?
can like get pictures of stars.
That is cool. That is super, super cool. So there you go. People are fixated on brand names, especially with technology. So companies strategically plan, coordinate, and integrate messages into one cohesive unit to be able to get the word out there. They use all the aspects of marketing to get things done. Now, when you do your final project at the end, you're going to be doing media buying. Media buying, for example, in other words, buying time on radio, buying time on TV, buying space in a magazine or a newspaper, is a part of that IMC process because that goes into the actual ad campaign itself. Brands that are all around you, slide two. Integrated marketing communications information helps create a conviction within the consumer, belief that I feel very strongly about something. There's a sense of uniqueness of offerings, creates a desire to purchase. This results in actions of making purchase. IMC creates a consumer-centric perspective. In other words, we're all about the consumer. We're thinking and focusing about the consumer. So what is advertising? Advertising, one form of marketing communications. It's a paid, mediated form of communications from an identifiable source designed to persuade the receiver, you, the customer, to take some action. So it's a call of action now or in the future. And many times it's a future. It plants a seed in your mind, and later on you access what we call mental files to make you interested in going further. Continuation with what advertising is. It's structured form of applied communication directed to consumers, costs paid by advertisers unless public service message, promotes goods, services, and ideas, identifies its sponsors, who are the people sponsoring the ad, and reaches people through a medium such as TV, internet, print ad, etc. The two important dimensions of modern advertising: it's engagement, fostering relationships with stakeholders, and integration, complementing other marketing efforts. And that really is what we speak about when we talk about integrating marketing communications, how important that aspect is. Communication, what makes advertising unique? The human communication process. A source formulates an idea, the source encodes the idea into a message, the source sends the message via a channel, and the message is delivered to a receiver. The receiver then decodes that message and then sends back data to the original encoder vis-a-vis feedback. For example, let's say I'm running a simple ad campaign through a circular in a CVS, Rite Aid kind of situation. So I encode messages, for example, in coupons. Okay? I send it out via channel.
Circular.
What?
When you say circular, what do you mean?
Circular, a little magazine that they have. You walk into CVS or to any Rite Aid, they have that little thing that looks like a newspaper. It's called a circular. It circulates, and in there you have different coupons for different products. It's old school. It's been like that for, I don't know, since the beginning of time, but it's still being used. So we send it out because when you come into the store, you get a physical copy, or if you're engaged online with that store, they'll send you alerts to your email if you're set up to do that, to tell you there's something on sale, so you come in specifically for that reason. And you never just come in for the sale item. It's like Staples. When they sell erasers for a penny a piece or a nickel for a pencil case, no one comes in to just buy pencil cases. Once you're there, you start buying other things. And that's really the hook. Once they've got you in the store, once they've got you buying the quote-unquote penny items, because they know they're losing on those penny items, they're not making money, but they are making money on the laptop that you buy. They're making money on the toners that you buy. They're making money on the copy paper that you buy and a million and one other things. The office chair that you happen to, the $500 Lazy Boy chair that you had to have all of a sudden. So you walk out with your $500 chair, $1,500 laptop, and then, I don't know, a half a dozen erasers. I think Staples did pretty well in that kind of scenario. Moving forward, communication, what makes advertising unique? The human communication process. When applying traditional process to advertising, the source is the sponsor. The message is in the advertisement. The channel of distribution is the medium, whether it's internet, TV, etc. The receiver, as I mentioned, is the consumer, and the noise includes competing messages, right? And also the thing, and those competing messages vie for your attention and also distract you in a way. And the model seems a bit oversimplified, but it is nevertheless a very, very good model. If you look at Exhibit 1-1, which is slide 11, it goes through it very, very nicely. Now, by the way I have it showed up over here is that on some of the slides, they'll actually have a commentary on the bottom. I've actually uploaded the professor's version of the slides. It's more annotated probably than the student version. But here we have the Stern communication model. And if you actually put it up there in PowerPoint, okay, it actually goes, sorry, let me just get back to it. It actually gives you a hyperlink, see the thing on the bottom, to get the slide text. But over here you have the source encodes the message is then sent through a medium, through the channel, there's noise all over the place, it's decoded by the receiver, which is the customer, and of course the receiver then, in the example of the circular, so how do I know if I was successful in my sale? By how many coupons were redeemed. And not just how many coupons were redeemed, because they're not only coming in for the coupon items, you look to see how sales in general in the store did during that season. So yes, you may have quote-unquote lost money on the 2-for-1 on Tylenol, but you made it up with all the other 1,000,001 things that you have, with the gallon of milk, with the cheese, with all the other things that they have. Many times these pharmacies like CVS, for example, I live next to CVS in Brooklyn here in Kings Highway, it's like a mini supermarket. You could literally walk in and get anything and everything that you need, except for fruits and vegetables. But you can pick up all kinds of wonderful things. So here, if you click on Access Text Alternative for the slide, it takes you to Exhibit -1. Basically tells you what the flow chart is talking about over here, as you could see. All right, somebody's talking there. If you don't mind, just to mute yourself, unless you're asking a question.
Yeah, no, I wanted to know. How do you know that the bump in sales is because of the ad?
So what you could do is
I
you
mean,
can look
obviously
at.
you know coupons are redeemed, you know that's from the ad, but you don't know. How do you know that the bump in sales is?
You have historical data. You look back at the same time that you did the last ad campaign, and if you see a pattern, let's say for the past 3 quarters you've been doing this, let's say once a quarter, you look to see if each quarter it rose, or if
there's so many other factors also. Maybe it became a fad that there was people like the laptop sold in your store, or
so that's why I said if you do it for a long enough period of time, then you basically rule out that as a fad. You can't base it on two sales. In realistic terms, a store like Staples would make a decision based on, Staples has been around for many, many years. They could say, okay, in the past 5 years, when we had our opening back to school, right, this was the trend. We saw a spike in laptop purchases. We saw a spike in furniture. I mean, just think about it. Going back to school is not, who goes back to school? First grade all the way up to college. And you need to get all your stuff for your college dorm. They sell furniture for college dorms. They sell computers, desktops, laptops, faxes, chairs, you name it. And if you see year in and year out a rise in popularity, a rise in purchasing, a rise in demand, then you know you're doing something right. Whereas if you look at times where you didn't have a particular draw, you didn't have your particular circular going out, engaging people to come in, you may see that sales dipped. But again, you need to look back at several years to make that kind of decision. So, communication, what makes what? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Noise, right? Is it good or bad? Do you want to try to lessen the amount of noise you have, or do you want to try to hide your message in the noise?
You can't hide your message in the noise, because the noise are the other people trying to get your attention, the other companies. You can't control that unless you make more noise or better noise, or drown them out with a better service or better ad campaign. Noise is there. You can't stop. You can't suppress. What?
You have too many ideas in the ad. That's what I understand. Okay, I got what you're saying.
No, the noise is referring to the other
advertisement on TV or
and it goes anything that distracts you, anything that tries to pull you. Communication. What makes advertising unique? The human communication process needs to account for involvement of consumer through interactive media, especially today. The consumer that we have today is much more technologically advanced. You can have people that quote unquote have that minimum wage job, but that doesn't define them in the use of technology. You have people that could be working in Walmart making $15 an hour, but they're super engaged in online shopping and Amazon. They're great at, they're into social media, looking to see what's trending. So today's day and age, you can't make an assumption, just because of the socioeconomic, everybody has smartphones. You could be in the lowest tier of socioeconomic grouping. You could be the domestic help making minimum wage, and you got yourself an iPhone. That's really what you say?
Homeless people have smartphones.
Homeless people. I mean, they were giving away the Obama. Remember the Obama phones? They were giving away all these smartphones, and there's a good reason for that. Because I don't want to get into this whole scandal of, they're able to track your movements, which they can, but there's a more important reason here, in that you could reach out to people. In fact, the usage of cell phones is used in determining the wealth of a nation. In other words, if the percentage of the nation, a high percentage, has smartphones, it is considered to be one of the indications of a developed country. Does that make sense to you, gentlemen? Gentlemen, is the fact that there are a large... right. Why?
I would say because more technologically advanced.
Yes, but
I guess I don't know.
I think you're being too complicated. Why let's say 95% of a country has smartphones? Why would that indicate that there's a tremendous amount of wealth or potential in advertising in that country?
Because a lot more people have access to the information you're trying to put out.
Right, internet access. Even if you're poor, you have internet access. You're not so poor anymore. Now you could go to college. You could find a program to help you get out of your poverty. I mean, that's really opportunity. The internet is really the is more than just a superhighway. It's your ticket out of any bad situation because you have literally the entire world. We've never had it in society. The entire world was literally in our hands, just like this, there for the taking. Anything you need, a spelling of a word. How do I say a word in Spanish? How do I say a word in Japanese? How do I try? What's the stock market doing now? I mean, what a cell phone can do now, we would salivate 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We would wish that our regular PCs could have done. And this is super, super important. Okay, so let's just go back to this slide over here, slide 3 about communication. What makes advertising unique? The human communication process continued needs to account for involvement of consumer through interactive media, interactive model, no single source or receiver. It's an interaction of a bunch of people. Marketers engage in conversations with consumers and reminds companies they don't have as much control. And that's simple because there's so many people out there that you need to basically understand, consider some of the many complexities involved, especially with this interactivity, and which lets consumers participate in communication by extracting the information they need, manipulating what they see, and reporting it in real time. I mean, look at what's going on now with social media and YouTube. The realization that much contemporary communication, especially in marketing, is better characterized as a dialogue has led many scholars to revise the communication model to reflect interactivity, because it really is a dialogue. Look at Twitter, for example. What's trending on Twitter now? That's a conversation of what's trending. And what's trending is really what's going to be popular, and what's going to be popular is going to be the things that are purchased and looked at or websites gone to, etc. We're in slide number 13. It's basically the interactive model of communication. In the interactive communication model, both the source and the receiver serve as an encoder and a decoder. Why? Just expand for a minute. 1 second. The encoder is also decoder. Why? Because the encoder sends the message. The message is decoded by the receiver. The receiver gives feedback, right? An example of the circular is the amount of coupons that are redeemed and also the spike in sales. And that feedback is now decoded by the original encoder. Does that make sense, gentlemen? Gentlemen, does that make sense?
I mean, the receiver isn't really encoding the message as much as they're just giving feedback. They're redeeming their coupons.
Yeah, but they're encoding the message in their activity. What they do is what they do encodes. Here we access the text alternative. So this diagram includes 4 circles that act as a continuous loop. First circle includes an encoder, source, and decoder. It flows into the message into the second circle. The message then flows into the decoder, receiver, and encoder in the third circle. These then flow into feedback in the fourth. This is basically what I just said before. So I want to just read the stuff on the bottom of the slide, which is very helpful. So the model illustrates companies' relationships with their customers today. Marketers no longer dominate the exchange of the message. They no longer simply talk to the customer. It's a conversation. If you look at any company's Facebook, look at any company's social media, they're supposed to be engaged with you, putting up interesting, interactive, maybe even like interviewing customers. And I've told this to small little juice shops. I think you should have daily posts to your Instagram and daily posts to your Facebook page of consumers walking in, buying things, giving ideas. The more you show interactivity with your customers, the more popular you will be, because everybody wants to be a superstar. Everybody wants to feel like they're making their mark on society, and you're giving them that. You're making them, giving them their 5 minutes of fame. Companies are in a conversation and give and take with customers. Companies send messages to customers. Customers send messages back to companies and to other customers through social media. Advertising communications comes from 3 combined sources. It could be a real-world sponsor. Basically, usually the company is legally responsible for the message. It could be the author, meaning the ad agency, the creative team, and they're basically in the background. Nobody really knows who the writers were unless they research on the internet. Usually when there's an ad, you don't really wonder, oh man, I'm really curious. Who was the author? Who was the creative team behind this? It's not really known easily. And the spokesperson in a particular ad is the source of the message within itself. Think of, a Geico commercial. Who's the spokesperson in the Geico commercial?
Gecko.
The gecko, right? The camel, the squirrels, whatever character you have. Ultimately, it could be a real spokesperson, it could be a real person, or it could be a persona, somebody with a personality.
The guy from Subway.
Yeah, the guy from Subway, Mayhem. Communication. What makes advertising unique? Applying the communication process to advertising. Message dimensions, autobiography, a narrative, and drama. These are different types of sources. So, different types of techniques. Autobiographical message, autobiographical message tells a story about a personal experience. A narrative message has a third person tell a story to an imagined audience. And drama message includes characters that act out events. BMW, for example, has an amazing set of short movies. It's the only way I could really term them. Like 10-minute vignettes of action with real action people from Hollywood, names that you would know, and they're driving BMWs and doing all kinds of crazy things. So, you would think for a minute you're watching Fast and Furious or Ocean's 11, and then boom, you're in the middle of a BMW commercial and you don't even realize it. Move on to slide number 16. Communication, what makes advertising unique, continued. Receiver dimensions, implied, sponsorial, and actual consumers. So the implied consumers are not real. They are an ideal image of a customer for that particular product or service. Sponsorial consumers, these are the people who pay for the ad. They determine if it suits their goal and whether the ad will run and for how long. Then you have the actual consumers. Those are the real people, not idealized, but the actual people who will see, hear, read the ad. It would be amazing if your implied and actual were the same. That would really be cool. Actual consumers don't respond the same as implied consumers. Both the creative team and the sponsor must consider how actual consumers will decode an advertising message. And you have to make sure that your ad message is seen the way that you want it to be seen. They do this many times. They'll do beta testing. They'll take a group of people, like in a focus group, and show them different ads, different versions of the same ad, and ask them what they thought. And if there's too much of a difference in the different versions of the ad, then they know that they're not really communicating with a consistent message, and that could be super, super problematic because you want to make sure that your message is super clear. Slide 17, feedback and interactivity. Verifies message was received. Various forms, redeem coupons, as I mentioned, website visits, clicks, store visits, tweets, posts, and increased sales. Audiences are no longer passive receivers of mass messages. They're very, very advanced now. Relationship management, marketing with the conscious aim to develop and manage long-term and or trusting relations with customers, distributors, suppliers, or other parties in the marketing environment. A market-driven firm overriding purpose is to profitably create happy, loyal customers. Customers, not products, are the lifeblood of the business. This is the difference between consumer-centric behavior, the market orientation versus production orientation, which is something that we discuss in the early chapters of Principles of Marketing. And this focus on the customer is known as relationship marketing. And it's really to foster that long-term loyal relationship, which is so hard to engender in our disloyal world. Consumers can choose many different products and services. As a result, the customer's relationship, in which a sale is only the beginning of the relationship. And it's the key strategic resource of successful modern business, where you foster that hook, that original interaction, and you continue on with it. Slide 19, IMC and relationship marketing. 3 goals: identify, satisfy, retain, and maximize value of customers. Strategically manage contacts between customers and company, and develop a full and useful view of customers by acquiring data and using that data to make future ad campaigns. Okay. Next, any questions thus far, gentlemen? Okay, let's move on. Here's a quick slide, very simple slide. I don't know why they have so much on it. 1 second, let me go back one. Exhibit 1-4, a comparison of transactional and relationship marketing. Transactional is about a transaction. There's a focus on the product. Customer acquisition, that's the focus. You acquire customers. Departmental level work and talking to the customer. Relationship marketing focuses on partnership and customer focus, customer retention and growth, cross-functional teams, meaning various departments working together within the organization to reach out to the customer, and listening and learning as opposed to doing the talking. IMC and relationship marketing continued. The importance of relationships focus on managing loyalty of stakeholders, the cost of lost customers, lifetime customer value. When you lose a customer, you're not only losing that customer right now, you're losing his or her business all the way down as long as they live, and not just them, but all their friends and all their friends' friends, etc., etc. So when you lose an already extant customer, it's a very, very expensive situation. You also have to look at the cost of acquiring new customers, which is really what your advertisement is partially dedicated to, because your ads are always dedicated to retaining and getting new customers and acquiring new customers, and the value of loyal customers. Levels of relationships in business, in marketing. Basic transactional relationship, I give you money, you give me product. Reactive relationship, you react to my requests. Then you become accountable. Then once you're accountable, then you become proactive, you engage in proactivity. Then there's a partnership, which really happens a lot in business to business, where you have companies that deal with each other for years and spend a lot of money on it. Then there's a certain sense of partnership, and then there's an interactive customer relationship, where if you have a difficulty or an issue with someone, you bring it to someone's attention. Customer retention, most business is conducted with repeat customers. This places a premium on customer retention, because that's the lifeblood of your business. Retention can be achieved by offering special benefits to loyal customers, effectively rewarding and thanking them for business, and providing an incentive for a continued relationship in the future. CVS, for example, a national pharmacy company, successfully retains its customers with a variety of reward programs. The more a customer spends, the more CVS offers savings and coupons. I could attest to you, when I buy in CVS, I literally get a mile-long list of coupons. I could wrap it around my neck and use it as a scarf in the winter. That's how long it is. IMC and relationship marketing. IMC is a concept and a process. Concept of integration is wholeness. Achieving this wholeness creates synergy. And what synergy is this energy that flows in the veins of the organization to bring everything together. It is a process where communication becomes the driving force. Consumers also part of that process. The evolution of IMC.
All right, I'm not understanding. What's the wholeness step?
The what?
What do you mean concept of integration is wholeness?
Let me get back to which slide are you
Right there, you're on it.
Concept of integration is wholeness. In other words, instead of having different points of contact within the marketing plan, you have all the different aspects. You have creative, you have the media buyer, you have the people who write the content. All of them together are integrated into this whole entire package. It's a sense of wholeness. It's all one cohesive unit, as opposed to disparate little units in an ad agency doing their little jobs. They're all mingling together, all fused together to get a consistent, clean message, a message that they intended the customer to get and intended them to react to and understand in the way that they put it out there. So it's whole. It's not a fragmented effort. It's everybody in the ad agency. It's everybody together in sync getting the message out.
Okay, so IMC is what creates an ad, or an ad is a form of IMC?
IMC is the process by which an ad is created from. Integrated marketing.
What does IMC stand for?
Integrated marketing communication. So it's everything the ad agency does, all the aspects, the research and development, the media buying, the putting together the ads, all that. And again, if you want to think of it as a bunch of billiard balls, right? You shoot one billiard ball, everything explodes. Everything, because everything was connected, everything moves apart. If you make one mistake in your advertisement, it unravels everything. It undoes everything. That's why everything has to be coordinated. Remember I gave you that message? I gave you that example of a focus group looking at a bunch of different ads, and each one says, hey, this one is totally different than that one. It gives you a different vibe. It gives you a totally different way of understanding it. That means that there's a problem. That means that your IMC is not working properly. Because if the same group of people see 3 different ads and get 3 totally different messages about what you're trying to say, then you realize that there's a problem here. There's a lack of consistency. You need to have a consistent message that's constantly being broadcasted to your customer, because the lack of consistency, the lack of getting the message out in the way that you intended it to be broadcasted will cause a tremendous amount of confusion. I've seen examples where they were doing Campbell's Chunky Soup, and they had 3 different versions of the commercial, and I saw them, and they were like dizzying, because each one was saying that they're focusing on this attribute of the Chunky Soup, this attribute of the Chunky Soup, that attribute, and then people would be totally confused as to what exactly that message is. Okay. Any more questions, Ben, or anybody else? Mr. Silver, was that clear? Okay. All right. The evolution of IMC. Nowak and Phelps spoke of 4 related tactics. Let me just see. So Glenn Nowak and Joe Phelps, advertising professors from the University of Georgia and Alabama, argue that IMC, integrated marketing communication, developed as a consequence of several important trends, including escalating media costs, splintering consumer markets. Markets became fragmented, skepticism about traditional mass media, because when you do a lot of mass media, you tend to lose the message. The individuals feel like they're just a part of this big thing, and they don't have any individuality. These have led marketers to question the wisdom of creating walls between disciplines such as public relations, direct response advertising, and sales promotion. All these things should be fused together into one response. Think of it as an army, right? Sometimes, yes, you have to send in the elite crack forces, but if you think of an army going out into battle, you have armor, you have infantry, you have light attack helicopters, heavy attack helicopters, and then when you're really stuck, you call in the big boys, you call in the pretty boys, the fly boys, to come in and to drop ordinances on the enemy. But it's all coordinated. It's one way. It's one wave. It's not like the army goes out and there's no armor to back them up, and you can't call for artillery support. It's all coordinated effort. And we saw this with Desert Storm. One of the reasons that we overwhelmed the Iraqi government was because we were so super coordinated, and all parts of the military were interconnected. Whether it was the Navy, right, shooting shells, whether it was attack helicopters, whether it was slow flying jets for ground support. All these things came about through coordination. The same is true in an ad campaign or an ad agency. If all the aspects of the ad agency come together as one, they bring a cohesive message. And that's super, super important, as opposed to what happened in the past where everybody would do their own thing. And of course, the ad campaigns themselves were not as effective. And that's really what led Nowak and Phelps to come up with the concept of, IMC. They realized what?
When did this happen? This was like before the 60s, or it was like in the 90s?
Well, next chapter is actually going to talk about the evolution of that. But I'm just going to go into Google for a second, and I want to just see the exact. What happened? No. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Give me a minute. Glenn Nowak. Just copy this. Give me a second. Okay. Yeah, 1990s. There you go, 90s. All right. So not too long ago. Okay, relationship marketing is how the customer sees marketing communications relating to them. And again, I mentioned before that you need to have a close relationship with your people. These communications create an integrated product in the consumer's mind, and they have that feeling that the company is behind them. The company understands what they need. If you market something in a cohesive manner and that message goes right over here, right into your heart, that means that you're doing the right thing. And that's super, super important. Just think of any ad that resonates with you. Many times it could be a charitable, like one of these fundraising things. I mean, back in the day, we had Jerry Lewis and the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation. Jerry Lewis was with these poor kids in wheelchairs. That message was powerful. It created a relationship between donors, prospective donors, and the organization. It's important to create that powerful interaction. All right, continuation. 4 sources of brand messages. All right, planned. We're going to explain this. Planned product message, service message, and unplanned messages. So a planned message, okay, is these are traditional promotional messages such as advertising, sales promotion, and sponsorships of ads. And they have low impact because customers see them as self-serving. You know, you have a spokesman, I don't know, you have some sports player, right? He's talking about product X. Of course you realize he's going to say it's the greatest thing in the world. Why? Because he's getting paid zillions of dollars to do it. Of course this sneaker, but we still flock, right? We still buy those Nike sneakers because Michael Jordan, who hasn't touched the basketball in I don't know how many years, but because of his reputation, and his popularity, people flock to it. But in general, sales promotion and event sponsorships are not viewed as super genuine. I'm not saying they're not effective, but people today have grown to become huge skeptics. And you have to understand why they grew to be skeptical. I mean, look at all the horrible Enron, WorldCom, Martha Stewart. You had the whole, the mortgage market crisis back in the late 2000s, 2007, 2008. Real big problem. People lost trust. And when you lose trust in something, it's very hard to gain it back. Okay, product messages. There are inferred messages from the product, the price or distribution elements, and these can have great impact. Well, think about it. You got a box, well, you're not a woman, but imagine, let me give you a male example of it. If you got a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, right? Anybody know what a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue looks like? Blue Label?
Sure, very well.
It looks expensive. It doesn't look like what the wino in the liquor store is going to be drinking. The homeless dude outside, with the brown paper bag. You could you could see a cheap bottle of vodka, for example. Okay, a cheap bottle of vodka is coming in a guys, can one of you, I hear noise in the background. If you could just, gentlemen, one of you gentlemen, if you could mute, thank you. You walk into the liquor store and you buy a bottle of Grey Goose or Belvedere, right? It looks amazing, right? A bottle of Belvedere, for example, has that beautiful etching on the outside of the bottle. They have some fancy mansion somewhere in Poland. It's an expensive bottle. A bottle of Grey Goose, right? It looks fancy. It looks almost like it's in a crystal bottle, right? You buy a cheap bottle of, I don't know, Georgie vodka, comes in a plastic bottle. The homeless guy is going to buy it, or somebody who's using it to cook with. It's not a high-end thing. And that translates into the price element. That's why an expensive bottle of wine costs a lot of money, because there's that certain, Glenmorangie Signet has a great bottle. Yeah, tell me about the Glenmorangie bottle.
It's just nice, like this opaque black, and it's like just classier gold.
Yeah.
Black and gold.
Yeah. By the way, IMC is basically the technique for advertising. In other words, the new advertising model takes in integrated marketing communication, takes in all the disciplines as we had mentioned before. But in any case, product price and the packaging is, people don't understand how important packaging is. That what we call the eye candy aspect is super super important. How many of you like when you
There's
buy what?
the Moses brand, the date vodka has like 24 karat gold on it and platinum.
Really?
Like yeah, and like it's not like a lot obviously, but like it's yeah.
How much is a bottle of that Moses date
Not
vodka?
expensive, not like crazy.
How much?
I don't know. My father buys all the buys. I don't know. It's not like a crazy bottle because he buys it consistently enough. I know it's not a crazy bottle.
But it makes an impact. I'll give you another example.
The bottle itself.
For those of you that are into tequila, you buy a bottle of Don Julio 1942. It has this long neck. It looks impressive. So when you put it down, it's like impressive. Chivas, for example, has this large bottle that they sell obviously for like these big huge parties, maybe like New Year's parties or whatever, that is basically connected to this beautiful silver swiveling kind of thing where you swivel it and then it decants. You know what I'm talking about? Ever seen that? It like swivels inside of this like thing. It's almost like a cradle that you could swivel it in. You put something like that on a table, like, wow, that's impressive. Whereas if you buy the cheap brand, it looks like cheap. It looks like something that the homeless guy is going to buy. And yes, you have to appeal to the homeless guy because he's going to buy your liquor. And you have to appeal to the high-end buyer because he or she's going to buy your liquor, but for a different reason, for a different occasion. Yes, Ben, you were going to say something.
Yeah. No, I just checked it up. It's like a $25, $30 bottle. But
Which one?
Like, it says on it 24 karat gold and everything. And it has this really cool also thing, like on the back of it, it's like this picture of Moshe, and it's like splitting the sea. And the way it looks, that if you look at from the front of the bottle through the liquid, it's 3D.
Well,
so
that's...
like it comes...
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I forgot which vodka company did this, but they did the coolest thing with packaging. Yeah, and I don't want you guys on YouTube to think that I'm an alcoholic. I'm not. I'm just using this as an example because I use this from observation. I've gone into a wine store to buy wine for dinner or for as a gift with someone. I forgot the name. There's a vodka company. It's Russian, obviously. It looks like it comes in a book. A very, very fancy looking book. And then you open the book and the bottle of vodka is inside. And there's a whole discussion in this quote unquote fake book. There's a bunch of pages that are real pages that talk to you about the process of how this fancy vodka is made. It's really cool. You take out the vodka and then you could put the book in your bookshelf. It looks like a fake book, but it looks really, really cool and very, very enticing.
Great for yeshivas.
Service messages. Interactions with company employees have greater impact than planned many times. So you have the product message we spoke about and how the employees behave. Slide number 28. Okay, this is what we call, let's just expand it for a minute. The integration triangle. All right. You have a planned message, you say it, you do it, the product service message, and then confirmation, unplanned messages. Let's talk about what this is. Let's look at the bottom of the slide, slide 28. Duncan and Moriarty. Okay, these are advertising names, people that are famous in the world of advertising. Their integration triangle illustrates how perceptions are created from these various brand messages. So the planned message are say messages, what companies say about themselves. And of course, as I mentioned before, what a company says about itself, of course, is going to paint itself in the best light. No one's going to say, oh, we're the worst in the world. No one's going to say that. Everyone is always saying these messages, superlatives. Oh, we're the best. We're known leaders. Of course they're going to say that because they have to say that. Then there are do messages, which basically represent what the company does. Then there's unplanned messages or confirm messages because others confirm or don't confirm what the company says or does based on their interaction with the product or service. Constructive integration happens when a company does what it says and then confirms it. It's kind of like a politician that promises, delivers, and his message is confirmed by the fact that he's constantly being elected. All right, let's move on. Marketing, determining the type of IMC to use. So what is marketing? The definition of marketing is the activity set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings, meaning I offer you a product or service, that have value to the customer clients, partners, and society at large. So it's a big calling. As a marketer, it's not just one individual, but it's an institutionalized kind of drive which creates communications about products and services and deliveries of such, which is so important because how do you learn about new things? How do you learn about new medicines? How do you learn about new technologies? So basically, it's a process where it involves developing products, pricing them strategically in a way that they effectively reach the people they need to reach, distributing them to customers, and promoting them through sales, advertising. Let me just move this little ribbon down over here, which is in the way. Hold on a second. Okay, let's move on to slide 30. Companies and organizations use many different types of advertising depending on their particular marketing strategy. The marketing strategy will determine who the targets of the advertising should be, where the ad should appear, and what media should be used, and what advertising to accomplish using those media. Slide 31, identifying target markets and target audiences. Target markets are the particular segments of the population. The target audience is that particular group within that segment. Okay? Slide 32. You have different kinds of markets. You have consumer markets, which is retail advertising and public service announcements. And you have B2B, business to business. How do they interact through trade shows, professional kind of relationships, and of course, agricultural advertising. I mean, you see this with, fertilizers and all kinds of scientific things to make your crops grow better, products that'll help you harvest better. And of course, that is within the B2B realm. The next slide, slide 33, is pretty cool. Trade advertising. Trade advertising is aimed not at customers, but at people who buy or influence business purchases. This website encourages businesses to consider using tough Corning glass or packaging their products. You see this massive gorilla sitting on top of this piece of glass. So that's a pretty riveting kind of ad because it shows you how tough it is. If a gorilla could sit on it, then it must be something that is, worthy of your attention. Implementing marketing strategies, the four P's: product, price, place, and promotion. So the product is self-explanatory. Remember, for our purposes, we use this term to describe goods and services. Price is important because consumers view value as the ratio of a brand's quality to its price. Image advertising creates a perception, but is rarely explicit about price because it just wants to build an image. And sales advertising focuses on a recent drop in price, for example. Those are all examples. 35, place, the distribution element. It could be done within the context of global advertising, international advertising in less countries, not having that global reach, national advertising around the nation, regional, tri-state area, or local in Brooklyn itself, for example. Slide 36, global advertising. Let's just expand this slide over here. Global companies must advertise not only in their home country, but also overseas to cover the distribution element of their marketing strategies. This ad, for example, that we have over here with Kentucky Fried Chicken, targets consumers through a purely illustrative advertisement, overcoming any language barriers. Especially, they also will overcome any barriers to illiteracy. Don't forget, we take it for granted that we know how to read and write, but in other countries, literacy is not something that is given. People don't have access to schools like we have here in the United States, so we should be thankful for that. Promotion, the communication element. Marketing communication refers to all the planned messages, personal selling, product and non-product advertising, non-commercial advertising, awareness advertising, and action or direct response. Well, let's look at some of these definitions over here, some of these concepts here. So personal selling is basically your salespeople, right? Product advertising promotes goods and services, while non-product advertising sells ideas. For example, call to action about an idea to save people, a food bank, for example, or to help homeless people. Is selling that idea of compassion, for example. Non-commercial advertising is used to seek donations, volunteer support, or changes in consumer behavior. Awareness advertising is using create an image for a product and to position it competitively with the goal of getting readers or viewers to select the brand the next time they shop. So that awareness is so important because remember I mentioned the word noise. If all these advertisers are advertising the same thing, they create a lot of noise, which takes away your attention. Action or direct response advertising seeks an immediate direct response from the reader. Act now while supplies last. It's like call to action. Do it now. Slide 38. Let's move this ribbon out of here. Promotion. Sales promotion, public relations, and collateral materials. Let's do that. Sales promotion offers an incentive to motivate people to act right away. Your coupons, rebates, whatnot. Public relations is an umbrella process with many activities that workers need to manage the company's relationship with customers and other stakeholders. PR is part of a marketing communication. Marcom is a kind of a buzzword that's used, but it's the communication, the way the marketing is communicated, but also has a much broader mission. Collateral materials are the little things that they give away, the brochures and things that, flyers and sales kits that are given away. For example, Mini Cooper, for many years, they gave away these cute little origami, these little fold-up things that pop up into a Mini Cooper car and you give it away. Those are important. And you see this at trade shows. They give away all kinds of tchotchkes and things to kind of make you remember pens, for example, that have the name of your company on it. Those are cheesy, but they work. Additional benefits of integrated marketing communication. Efficiencies of mass media advertising, not what they used to be. People get very, very turned off by it. They feel that there's this lack of personal interaction. Consumers are more sophisticated, cynical, and distrusting. Large gaps between what companies say and advertising what they do, and that adds to the cynicism. And nourishing customer relations more important than simple exchanges. Simple exchanges don't lead to customer loyalty. Nurturing that relationship is what it does.